So let's have a conversation about emotional awareness. So if I go back some 25 years ago, during the darkest period of my life, I was really challenged to address some of the emotional, psychological, intellectual challenges that I had been avoiding most of my adult life. You see, I had done what a lot of men had done, which was to succeed by society standards, but internally be so emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually bankrupt that eventually something had to give, and I had to be willing to face head on the emotional challenges that I was denying. I had experienced a lot of loss in my life. I had gone through a divorce, a bankruptcy, foreclosure, lost everything. My family, my kids who I loved more than anything. And so I spiraled into this deep, deep depression. And so one night, as I was sitting there in despair, just really feeling hopeless, I thought about what would happen if I were no longer here. I contemplated, if only for a brief moment, taking my own life. It was that dark. But fortunately for me, I thought about my kids and what effect or impact that might have on them, and I knew that I couldn't do that to them. And I knew that I had to gain the strength and the courage to face head on the challenges that I was going through. I had to deal with my stuff. And fortunately for me, I gained the courage to go to therapy. And without question, in our society, there's such a negative stigma around men in therapy that, it's said that you're supposed to be strong and not show weakness. And so there was that part of me that really struggled with that. And I had to deal with I was a manager of a company, and that whole idea of being the boss and appearing weak in front of my employees. All that stuff played out in my head. But ultimately, I knew that I needed to do something, because when I had the fleeting thoughts of suicide, no matter how fleeting they may have been, then I intuitively knew something was wrong and I needed to get help. And so it is my belief that the three most difficult words for a man to say is, I need help. And so the reason I want to share this video, because I want to make it okay for men to say, I need help. And so one night I was sitting up watching television, and I saw a commercial, and the commercial was about depression. And as I watched the commercial, I recognized that that was me. I had all the symptoms of depression. I had begun isolating myself from friends and family. I was losing weight. I was sleeping a lot. So I was really depressed. So I just made a choice. And I'm so, so grateful that I made this choice, that I wanted to live. And so I gained the courage to see a therapist. And I'll never forget the first time I attempted to go. I went into this therapist's office, and I was walking around the office, and I was grabbing some brochures, and the secretary or receptionist asked me if I needed some help, and I said, no, I'm fine. I just want to get a little information. And so the truth was, I was terrified, absolutely terrified. And so I grabbed a couple of brochures and I left, and I went home, and I was literally sweating bullets because I was so scared. But I knew I had to try again. So this time I went to a different therapist and had a completely different result. And it was nothing short of a miracle, because I walked in and did the same thing that I did in the first therapist's office, which was I was walking around their office asking for brochures and information about depression. And it just so happened that a therapist walked out and apparently picked up on my fear and anxiety. And she walked over to me and she says, "May I help you?" And I said, "No, I just want to get some information about depression." And she says, "Well, are you depressed?" And I said, "No, I'm not depressed. I just want to get some information." And again, I was in complete denial. And this person, who was just an angel, she said, "Look, I understand that you're a little nervous." She says, "But why don't you come into my office and let's just talk? Is that okay?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, I guess." So I walked into her office and we started talking, and she asked me if I was depressed, and I told her, "Well, I'm not really sure, but I saw this commercial and I really related to some of the things that the commercial said, and maybe I am depressed." And so we continued our conversation for a little bit, and she told me that she understood how afraid I was, and she said that was okay to be nervous. She says, "But something brought you here today." And she says, "Whatever that is that brought you here today, you need to trust it. You need to trust that there's a part of you that knows that you should be here. And so I'm inviting you to open up and talk to me a little bit, and let's see if we can figure out what you need to do." And so I sat there and kind of listened, and she was just an amazing person. And one of the first questions that I asked her was, "Well, if I decide to go to therapy, how long will it take?" I'll never forget asking her. I said, "How long will this take?" And she says, "Well, unfortunately, I can't answer that question." She said, "It all depends on how committed you are and what you're willing to do to deal with and address the depression or the issues that's causing your depression." And I said, "Okay, that's fair enough." And I said, "Well, how much is this going to cost? Because I don't have a lot of money right now." And she says, "Look, don't worry about the money." She says, "All I need you to do is simply commit to coming, and we'll figure out the money later. Don't worry about that." She says, "Just make a commitment that you want to get better. And as soon as you make that commitment to yourself, then you're halfway home." And there was something in her voice, there was something, she was so caring, so compassionate, so just genuinely concerned about me. I picked up on it and I said, "I think you can help me." And she says, "I'm sure that I can, but you've got to do the work." And I said, "Well, I think I'm ready." She says, "Great." And she said, "Well, let's schedule a time and we'll set it up and we'll get started." And so that was my first introduction to therapy. And as I drove away from her office after scheduling a meeting for later, I realized that I had probably made the most important decision or step in my life. And that step was to get better and to heal and to grow. And it was that decision that challenged me to really address and deal with all of my baggage that I've been carrying around for a very long time. And so emotional awareness is the process of us getting in touch with who we are as human beings. It's recognizing how in cases of trauma through childhood, we may disconnect or repress or suppress our emotions and lose touch with, in my opinion, the most important aspect of our humanity, which are our feelings. And so if you're watching this video, I hope you'll recognize that there's no shame in asking for help. As a matter of fact, I want you to understand that those three most difficult words that most men have, or most men struggle with saying, "I need help." When you can say those three words, you are stronger than you've ever been. By being able to say, "I need help," it shows a sign of strength. So if you're in that situation right now where you're struggling and you're afraid to say, I need help, know that it's okay. And know that by saying, I need help, you're laying the foundation to address all the challenges that are keeping you stuck, keeping you from being happy. And I want you to be happy. So I want you to think about this video and know that whatever struggles you may be going through right now, no matter how dark your life may seem, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But you must be willing to walk towards that light. And I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll walk through that light. Don't be afraid to say, I need help. Move toward the light and heal your heart, heal your soul. And you'll be glad you did. Good luck.